Quack-a-doodle-doo, with your friend and pal Fearsome here, and we're in Realm Commodore Skull Island's Bar Chamber about to kick off a Renegade versus Renegade 3v3. On the blue side of the sigil we have Francesco at Privateer, Matthew Walker at Musketeer, and Edward Teach at Swashbuckler. Facing off versus Red with Fair Mason Mickelson at Privateer, Jasmine Morgan at Swashbuckler, and Christopher at Musketeer. Looks like blue team gets first turn. Now Francesco is playing Matthew Walker and Edward Teach, so blue team is a trio team facing off versus red for this match. Looks like blue team is going to move up into a nice little musket line. Francesco bombs Christopher with big guns and moves his otters up and his Bonnie Ann. Matthew Walker does a morn song on Christopher and moves the rest of his companions up into the formation while doing a sniper shot with Chantel. And Edward Teach uses his critical buff and moves his companions into the formation as well. The left side of Team Blue's musket line is right from the pillar, and the right side is one space in front of the pillar. Christopher has about 1/3 of his health missing, and it's about to be red turn in just a second. Mason Veiler shields Christopher and moves his companions up into a musket line right in front of the pillar. And Jasmine Morgan moves to the side and does the same thing with his companions as well. Christopher slows the right side of the formation with Exeter and uses a agility buff from his Chantel. The pet from blue side and red side both spawn in, and now it's blue's turn. Looks like blue is going to move up the left side of their formation to meet the right side, and Francesco bombs Christopher again and gets an epic. He slows Christopher with the max slow from Emmett and moves the rest of his companions up into the rest of the musket line. Matthew Walker uses a Veiler shield, and so does Edward Teach. And Christopher is now down to half health. And now it's red team's turn. And Mason will start off with a critical buff, with Emmett using his group heal. And Jasmine Morgan will also heal Christopher, giving him most of his health back. And Christopher snipes the Nausicaa with his Chantel on the right side of the blue formation. Captain Barney joins the fight on the blue side. That's Francesco's pet. And now it's blue team's turn. While Christopher on the far right of the red team's formation is slow, it looks like blue team is looking to move up their musket line quite a bit so that they can pressure the left side of the red formation. And Francesco uses his zeal, and everyone moves up, including Matthew Walker, the musketeer, who will probably be bombing soon. And Edward Teach uses his group curse so that the enemies will not be able to heal, which will be a huge advantage in pressuring them. Blue team leaves their otters out on the left side of the formation, hanging back there, which is actually a good idea. They can just stay there and slow. They're kind of tricky to use since they're short range units. Emmett in particular becomes musket chain food pretty dang fast, so very good job for blue team right there. And now it's red team's turn. Mason is going to bomb Matthew Walker's group over there on the far right of left formation. He moves his Emmett behind the pillar and uses Bonnie Ann Scatter Blast on the formation. And then he hides his Contessa. Jasmine Morgan uses a Ghost Wheel on Bonnie Ann, gets quite a bit of health down, and he uses his Scatter Blast as well on the formation. And he uses his critical buff on Van Flanders. And now it's Christopher's turn after Contessa hides. Christopher uses the max agility buff, the 100% one, and he snipes Nausicaa with Chantel and slows the right side of the formation. Nausicaa is down to red with much of her health missing, and Captain Bernie comes in to use a Rainbow Bless, which heals the rest of Team Blue's companions. One of Team Red's pets charges Team Blue's formation, and as always, these pets tend to get slaughtered, but they usually can survive for at least a turn. And the pet triggers all of Team Blue's overwatches, and still manages to survive, but ends up not landing a hit on Bonnie Ann, and Bonnie Ann ends up stock assaulting them. And now Team Blue will make their turn. And it looks like Blue Team is about to pile down a bunch of AoE attacks on the left side of Red's formation. Emmett uses his group heal. And looks like Exeter slows Jasmine Morgan. Bonnie Ann uses Scatter Blast. Matthew Walker bombs right there where Contessa is. And another Bonnie Ann uses her Scatter Blast. Buffalo Bill is going to try and single snipe that Bonnie Ann right there. And there's a little bit of a firefight going on. But Bonnie Ann gets a return fire and a quick draw. And Bill retaliates with a True Grit, and Bonnie Ann goes off on the Nausicaa that was almost dead. And then Nausicaa is sent in. The other Nausicaa is sent in for the coup de grace and gets a couple of chains off on Emmett. And now it is Team Red's turn. Quite a few of their companions are at low health, and I missed it earlier, but Edward Teach moved up into the formation as well. Mason bombs the formation where Edward Teach is, and he reduces the Nausicaa with a fort on with his Emmett. There's a bit of a grit war going on there. He moves his Bonnie Ann back to the side of his Emmett and moves his contestant to the middle pillar. Jasmine Morgan puts a miniature shield on, and he sends his contestant to kill my Buffalo Bill. And Christopher moves to the middle pillar behind it and moves his companions as well to the left side of Red formation. Team Blue's pet goes for a hit on Contessa and actually lands one, but Contessa retaliates with about 600 damage. Team Red's pet also manages to lay down a hit on the Blue Team's Bonnie Ann, and two more pets spawn in. Now it's Blue Team's turn. Blue Team is looking to focus most of their fire on that Contessa to guarantee the kill. Francesco bobs the group there in the middle with Christopher and slows once again. Bonnie Ann goes and hits a good 400 hit, but doesn't chain anymore, and Matthew Walker bombs there in the middle. And his Bonnie Ann does slightly better with the chains, but ends up dodging a double tap. Chantel snipes and finishes off Contessa. And Edward Teach bombs and looks like he finishes off that Bonnie Ann that was at such low health. And he also moves the Nausicaa back into the formation. And now it's Team Red's turn. Mason moves himself and Emmett into a fog formation where Jasmine Morgan is waiting, and he moves his Contessa up. Jasmine Morgan fogs, and Christopher puts on a Valor shield and moves his Chantel into the formation as well, while slowing the mid group where Edward Teach is on the blue side of the field. Blue pets move, then the red pets move, and that pet takes care of some of the bombs, takes some of the damage, and another one of Team Red's pets spawned in. And now it's Team Blue's turn. And Francesco starts out with a nice little reinforced group heal. And he slows the middle formation where they all fog with, I'm guessing, a mid-slow. And Bonnie Ann finishes off that pet. All those companions right there are moving into fog formation, and Matthew Walker's Chantel uses her agility buff. Red team is still slowed, and they have Vengeance Shrouds still on them, so they cannot heal. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be moving forward next turn. They have their Contessa way out there. He could hit Team Blue's Privateer, but once again, pretty sure that that would not kill Francesco. So no worries right there for Team Blue. And now it is Red Team's turn, and we will see what they actually do. Mason starts out with another critical buff, moves his Emmett through quite a few flames and a bomb, and now his Emmett is down to red. It looks like Team Red is moving more towards the right, and Christopher did move a little bit up, so he'll probably be bombing sometime soon. I think they're trying to avoid Team Blue's scent pets, so that they don't lose their fog, which isn't a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Looks like their pet, Team Red's pet, decides to do a Rainbow Plus and heal them up a little bit. Alright. And now it's Team Blue's turn. Francesco starts off with a morning song. Looks like he morning songs that Chantel down there in the back, and Matthew Walker does the same thing. Now Edward Teach looks like he purged. I'm pretty sure he meant to fog but clicked the wrong button. So there goes all their buffs. We'll see if Team Blue can recover from that, which I'm pretty sure they can. And it looks like it is Team Red's turn. Team Red has an Emmett that's down in red. And we'll just see how they react to this mistake. Can they take advantage on it? Can they capitalize on it? We'll just have to see in just a moment. There's that Contessa right there where she can hit any of those other units out there. They could potentially take down that Nausicaa like scot-free if they wanted to. That might be a decent idea, so we'll see if they do that. And now it's actually their turn. And now it's Team Red's turn. Mason forts Christopher. He moves his companions up, and he goes for a reckless hit there on Bonnie Ann. I probably wouldn't have done that myself. Only did 1,000 damage on Bonnie Ann, and now all the companions in blue formation can just, screw her over. Looks like a scatter blast was done by one of the Bonnie Anns on red team. Everyone else moved forward. And they now have that nice little agility buff on. I'm pretty sure Fan Flanders put that on. And my pets and Blue's pets are suiciding against Mason's repel borders and running into Chantel's Overwatch as well. Both of them managed to survive though. And Blue Team's pet managed to land a hit on Contessa as well. And now it's Blue Team's turn. It looks like they are going to chain down that Contessa right there to make sure she dies. So it was a trade of 1,000 damage for a companion. Not really a good trade. And it fires, Bonnie fires, and looks like Matthew Walker went for a snipe on Chantel, just for the extra damage so that he could snipe Chantel and then chain on to Contessa. And looks like Red Team's Chantel survived with just a little bit of help left. And Blue Team also retreated their Nausicaa behind Exeter, as you can see there on the far left of the Blue Team's formation. But also looks like they're in a very good position to be bombed by Reckless Christopher on the red side. Christopher is actually the name of his musketeer. And he has some great protection and buffs on, some critical buffs, an agility buff, a fort, and 2 shields, so he's in a good spot. And looks like Team Red also forwarded their Nausicaa, so they'll be using her pretty soon. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. Christopher goes for a bomb on the Bonnie Ann, and he moves his Exeter forward and his Nausicaa forward. However, Team Blue's companions are in fog still, and looks like Team Blue also took down Chantel with their pet There's a little bit of a pet fight going on between that little purple bunny thing and the ostrich in a pear tree. But looks like Team Blue's Bonnie Ann did survive, so maybe they'll revive it, and it's Blue Team's turn now. Looks like the Blue Team is going to move back into a nice, neat musket line formation again, and Francesco bomb that back group. Bonnie Ann is kind of in trouble, so she stays back and heals. She's still in hidden, so not much to worry about there. And now it is Red Team's turn. And they're in the planning phase now. Mason puts a Valor armor on Christopher, so now he's even more armored, and he slows the mid group of the blue formation. It looks like Jasmine Morgan uses his group curse. Now Blue Team cannot heal any of their companions. He sends his Fan Flanders against the formation as well and tries to kill Exeter, but manages to fail, and Christopher finishes it off with his Nausicaa, who gets quite a few chains off. Nausicaas are having a little fight there. Christopher moved up if you missed it. Both Nausicaas are about half health. Looks like the Blue Team's Nausicaa is getting a little bit of the worst of it. But we'll see how this turns out. They're both pumping out burst fires and true grits and all that good stuff. But it looks like the Blue Team's Nausicaa is definitely dead. And they can't heal it, so I don't see any way they'll be able to resurrect it. And looks like Mason finishes off a pet that ran into his repel borders. And now it is Blue Team's turn. Looks like Edward Teach is contemplating putting a fort on the Nausicaa, but he puts it on himself instead. Alright. Francesco forts Matthew Walker the Musketeer, and he uses his Emmett's Reduce to reduce the Nausicaa with the fort on. Good move right there. It looks like the Bonnie Ann's going to pick off one of the otters. That otter was a will-based unit, so that's a good idea right there. Looks like Matthew Walker's going to use the max agility buff. Bonnie Ann's going to try and kill the Fan Flanders and only ends up chaining once. And Chantel gets quite a few chains off as well. Edward Teach forts, and he uses his Nausicaa to hit Fan Flanders. It's a good idea to use your Nausicaa when it's that low health, especially on something that doesn't have quick draws or grits or anything like that, because the Nausicaa will end up dying before it even gets its churn off. So, good move by Blue right there. Now it's Red Team's turn, and they are in the planning phase. Mason goes for a Ghost Whale or Soul Raver, whichever it is, and kills the Nausicaa. Ensures that kill like a good player. Jasmine Morgan hides. Christopher bombs. Remember, he still have that ability on that Jasmine Morgan cast earlier. I forgot what it's called, but it basically makes it so Team Blue cannot heal. So it's good that they're pressuring right now. Obviously, they have forts on and stuff. They have to do that as well, but thought I'd point that out. The Bonnie Ann right there that's left out in the middle of the field, they're going to have to get out of there. That's all I'm going to say. And now it's Blue Team's planning phase. And Francesco uses that group failure armor thing. Gets nice 400 absorb on most of Blue Team's units, and looks like Blue Team moves up on the right side of their field with the rest of their pirates and companions. Even the Bonnie Ann that's low health there, that Bonnie Ann is probably going to die very soon. However, pretty sure that Christopher there on the other side of the pillar can't exactly see that Bonnie Ann, so she might be safe for now. And now it is Red Team's planning phase. Mason on the Red Team decides to fort himself. He's probably anticipating an attack from Blue Team on the right side, because they did move up last turn. And Christopher decides to move his otter into that big old cluster of companions on the blue side. So I don't know why Christopher did that. I guess he's trying to trigger the Overwatch from Bonnie Ann and possibly kill that Bonnie Ann, but it didn't really work out. Christopher doesn't usually do things unless there is a good reason for it. Okay, and now it is blue team's planning phase. And looks like Francesco is going to move to the right side of the blue's field. And blue is actually going to focus down on that otter, ensuring it with an assassin strike from Edward Teach. And now it is the red team's planning phase. And looks like Mason on the red team decides to use Zeal. And Jasmine Morgan comes in to poison both the Musketeer and Privateer on the blue team. Christopher bombs the group with the Bonnie Anns in it and manages to kill one of them. And Mason's purple little bunny decides to get a hit off on Chantel and actually does hit. And now it is the blue team's planning phase. And Francesco on the blue team decides to put on a Valor shield and move his Emmett back. And Matthew Walker moves forward and he moves his Bonnie Ann back. Edward T decides to hide and move his Bonnie Ann up and over a bomb. I think they're trying to go for Mason, even though Mason does have a forward on, has a lot of agility units right there, and that in and of itself could be a threat. However, blue team does have to worry about their own Privateer. So it's kind of a bit of a dilemma here. And now it's red team's planning phase. Mason on red team decides to bomb Bonnie Ann, and Edward Teach manages to get a good 500 damage off. It's a ton of damage right there on that Bonnie Ann, and Jasmine Morgan goes for a nice hit on Emmett, and Christopher ensures the kill with what I think is a sniper shot. It could be a regular shot. I would have to check again, but Christopher gets quite a few chains off on Matthew Walker, and Matthew Walker is retaliating with a True Grit and his quick draws as well. So we'll see how that went down, the results of that. Pretty sure both Matthew Walker and Christopher no longer have a Valor's armor on. Christopher does have his Valor's armor on, and now it is Team Blue's planning phase. And Francesco goes for, I think, a regroup, some type of group heal and criticals. Matthew Walker goes for a super hit on Christopher, trying to get his Valor armor off, see if he can actually break it. Gets pretty much all of his burst fires, some quick draws, and grit off. Bonnie Ann starts to hit at Chris and gets quite a bit of his health down, and Chantel also lands a hit as well. And Edward Teach gets that assassin strike there for the coup de grace. Now he's dead. Bonnie Ann decides to heal herself. It looks like the game's going to wrap up pretty dang quickly. And now it's the red team's planning phase. And Mason decides to fort Jasmine Morgan. Looks like Francesco and Matthew Walker lost connection, and they might be AFK for the next turn or so. But we'll see what happens. In that case, this will be a golden opportunity for the red team to revive Christopher, and that will be a pain for blue team, a huge pain. Yep, nothing's moving over here on the blue side, so it does look like Matthew Walker and Francesco have disconnected, and hopefully they will be back in the game soon. But it is blue team's planning phase. Edward Teach is back. He did lose connection as well for a bit. Looks like he stepped on a bomb and moved his Bonnie in up. So, looks like Christopher will once again be revived, more than likely, and they will have a fighting chance once again. Red team could be back in the game. Now it's red team's planning phase, so we'll see what happens in just a couple seconds. Mason moves forward, and Jasmine Morgan revives Christopher the Musketeer. And now all three pirates are up. It does look like Francesco and Matthew Walker are still disconnected. So it'll be pretty much Edward Teach for the next turn at least, trying to keep their team alive. It is possible that if he's not careful, that blue team will actually lose when they actually had the advantage at first. So now it's blue team's planning phase. Looks like Edward Teach just changed his move right there. He's like, do I fort? Do I heal? What do I do? He uses his Bonnie to try and get some damage off. Looks like he fails to kill Christopher, so Christopher will probably get revived yet again, and he'll be able to use his abilities this turn, which will be a pain for the blue team. And now it is the red team's planning phase. Mason moves up to the right side of Team Red's field, or right side. Christopher heals, and Jasmine Morgan put a Veiler armor on Christopher. Alright. It does look like Francesco and Matthew Walker might be back in the game. We'll just give it a moment, but it is currently blue team's planning phase. So we will see in just a minute. And by all looks of it, it looks like they have come back. Francesco puts a fort on Matthew Walker, who thankfully managed to survive, thankfully for blue team. And looks like all the companions are focusing in on Jasmine Morgan, as they are musketeers and are highly likely to hit. Edward Teach goes for a poison, and it looks like it does about 214 damage for the poison. Now it is the red team's planning phase. Well, something was blocking the screen at that point, but as you can see, Edward Teach is dead, so I'm guessing they did something like a haywire shot or something and killed Edward, but he's all the way back there and he's dead. So that's what happened. It's like Chantel's getting some damage off on both Christopher and Jasmine Morgan. Jasmine Morgan's almost dead. Lands another burst fire. Bunny and hits a shot. And she's just surviving by a hair. Just by a hair. And now it's Team Red's turn. Looks like Mason is going to revive Jasmine Morgan, and Reckless Christopher the Musketeer, is going to hide. Matthew Walker kills the purple pet, that would be Mason's pet, and it is blue team's turn. And they are in the planning phase, which I doubt will last very long, since it is towards the end of the game and there are only a few companions and pirates left to move. So we will have to see what happens. What blue team is going to try and do here is they are going to try and trigger Overwatch to get rid of Christopher's hide, rendering it almost useless. And looks like both pirates heal Edward Teach there, who had died I think a couple turns before. I think it was last turn. Somehow I missed that. And now it is Red Team's planning phase. Mason decides to heal Jasmine Morgan again, and Jasmine Morgan used what I think is her last fort on Reckless Christopher. Now, it looks like Edward Teach, it is in the planning phase now, but it looks like Edward Teach is trying to do a poison on Mason there and try and get some repel borders damage. As you can see, he's trying to bypass Chris's Overwatch using the Bonnie Ann right there that's taking up the Overwatch space. And the other Bonnie Ann is moving in to take up basically some chains in case they try and chain down Edward Teach, and also to do some damage on Mason. So we'll see how that goes. And it looks like both Francesco and Matthew Walker put a Veiler's armor on Chantel, and Chantel's getting some nice chains off. It does look like Mason did hit a riposte and a relentless on. It might not have been relentless. It might have actually been a repel borders on the swashbuckler Edward Teach and got quite a bit of damage. It looks like Christopher pretty much killed that Bonnie Ann. There you are. All that poison just sank in, did quite a bit of damage. And now it is Team Red turn again. Mason decides to run to the far right corner of his own side of the field, and Jasmine Morgan goes for an assassin strike on Edward Teach, and Christopher goes for a super strike on him and ends up chaining mostly on Matthew Walker. The good thing is that for Edward Teach and the blue team is that his revives went first, so before the bleed happened, the revives happened. So Edward is just going to put on a Veiler's armor, and we're still in the planning phase of blue, so I'll just skip that bit right there. Francesco puts a fort on Edward Teach, and it looks like Matthew Walker heals Edward Teach as well with a nice little rally. Bonnie Ann goes for quite a few chains on Jasmine Morgan, and Chantel finishes her off and also chains a little bit on Chris. Edward Teach goes for a Soul Reaver on Mason, and now looks like both the bleed from the poison and the Soul Reaver will kill for Mason Mickelson next turn. And he can't heal, there's nothing he can do anyway. So even if it is the turn afterwards, which it isn't, he'd still be dead. So now Team Blue only has to worry about killing one pirate for now, unless Christopher has another heal. And now it's Team Red's planning phase. And Mason goes for a group heal, which does bring Jasmine Morgan back up. Christopher goes for some type of Inferno shot or canister shot or whatever you call it. Some solid hit on Chantel right there. He still has a forward on. Obvious move right now would be for Edward Teach to assassin strike Jasmine Morgan. And Mason will be dying next turn. So, just making sure that Jasmine Morgan dies. That is what blue team is trying to do here. And Francesco goes for an agility buff, a 10-round agility buff. And Matthew Walker does as well, which honestly doesn't make any sense. Pretty sure that was a mistake. There's a little bit of a riposte battle, and looks like Jasmine Morgan lands a riposte on Edward Teach. And now Mason is dead. Mason and Jasmine Morgan are dead. And Christopher is the only red player left. He goes for a hit on Matthew Walker. Some nice chains, double taps on Bonnie, and instead, if he had been able to hit all of his shots off on Matthew Walker, then he might have actually been able to kill. It was pretty dang close. But Team Blue probably isn't going to take any chances. They're either going to heal or they're going to Valor Armor their Musketeer just to make sure. So Team Blue has 2 companions left, and they have all their pirates left. Team Red has their Musketeer, their only pirate left. And Francesco moves up behind Matthew Walker. Matthew Walker forts, and Edward Teach puts a Valor Armor on. And that doubles the effect of Valor Armor, making essentially 2,000, because the fort counts towards the Valor Armor when you put the Valor Armor on afterwards, which is a nice little trick. And Christopher puts on his own protection, Leviathan's Call. He has a Valor's Fort and Leviathan's Call. Edward Teach, obviously, he's not going to use those throwing knives yet. He's going to poison him, because that will eat right through the little crack in armor Chris is putting on. So, and the others will be making their turns pretty soon. Francesco revives Matthew Walker, who does a bomb on Christopher. And Edward Teach does poison Christopher. It's a good 350 damage right there. So blue team is gradually whittling him down. Pretty sure Christopher is at least going to try and get a couple more kills on companions and stuff. Maybe he's still trying to win, who knows. Maybe there is a chance. Maybe he has some type of heal or something. So blue team, has to still watch out. It's like Edward Teach is going to hide. We're just waiting for the clock to continue winding down. See a couple of dots on Christopher. Edward Teach is actually going to hide. Like for a moment he was changing his mind. Matthew Walker decides to bomb, and so does Francesco. Edward Teach hides, as I said before, for the 5-round hide. And it looks like the blue team is going to just keep their Bonnie in there, and they aren't even going to use them, maybe for the coup de grace or something like that. And looks like Christopher did have a group heal. He's trying to bring his team back into the game, which we do not want at all. So Edward Teach is contemplating whether to use those hurling knives on Jasmine Morgan, or whether to charge back into the back where the privateer is, and backstab him. Looks like he's actually going to use his Bonnie Ann instead and stock assault Jasmine Morgan, so he can run there in the back and try and kill Mason. He will kill Mason. That's what Edward Teach will do. He will definitely kill Mason. So Francesco puts a fort on Edward Teach and uses his Bonnie Ann to kill Jasmine Morgan, and Edward Teach goes for a backstab on Mason. They could have been back in the game if Blue Team had managed to leave one of them still living, either Jasmine Morgan or Fair Mason Mickelson, because if they had heals, then this thing would still be going. But it looks like the Blue Team is actually going to win this match. And Francesco heals Chantel. Matthew Walker bombs, and Edward Teach moves forward to where Christopher is. And now it is Christopher's turn. And this is looking to be the last round. Pretty sure Christopher will die. He does go for a 10-round buff, and Blue Team will finish him off, more than likely. Looks like Edward Teach is going to try doing hurl knives. That will trigger some, burst fires. I'm pretty sure he's just doing that, for fun, because he barely uses that ability. Looks like Francesco is going to go for a charge. He's going to bypass Christopher's Overwatch with Chantel. Here we go. He hits him, glancing blow. Matthew Walker goes for a regular canister shot. Bonnie Ann goes for a shot, and looks like Chantel actually finishes off the kill. Alrighty, well, that was a good, exciting match. Plan to have many more of these hosted here on this channel, so stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in another video or another stream. So peace out for now.